everyone, and welcome to the Varsity Tutors StarCourse series, where today we are so excited to have the myth-busting, crash-testing, world-exploring Kari Byron rejoining us to teach us all about innovation and how the people who have led innovation throughout history have paved the way for how we can become innovators today. Now, before I pass things along to Kari, I want to be sure everyone is prepared to make the absolute most out of today's live lesson. So a few things to note. Kari's going to have some questions for you today and some opportunities to take part in the scientific method together as a class. So feel free to use the ask button on screen to both ask and answer questions throughout the lesson. And if we don't get to those questions straight away, not to worry, we're going to have about 10 minutes at the close of the lesson specifically set aside for Q&A. And our in-class activity is going to get a little hands-on. So you'll want to have paper and, with a grown-up's permission, some scissors to participate in today's activity. You'll also want to be sure that you have your cameras close by, because toward the end of the lesson, we're going to have the opportunity to lean into the screen and pose for a selfie. And if you post those selfies on Instagram and you tag us here at Varsity Tutors, as well as the real Kari Byron, you'll be entered to win one of Kari's favorite sustainable brands, which she may or may not be demoing for us for today, as well as a potential choice of another sustainable accessory, plus a 1-month membership to the after-school club of your choice. Now, I'll talk a little more about that prize and some of the specifics on how to enter toward the end of today's lesson, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and hand things off to your instructor for today, Kari Byron.
Hello there, I'm Kari Byron. I am originally from Mythbusters, which was a long-running show, and in case you haven't seen it in reruns over the past couple decades, we would take myths and urban legends and we would test them using the scientific method to find out if they were true, whether they're busted, confirmed, or plausible. Now, that started my career in a long line of being a curiosity innovator. I am I would say I'm a curiosity influencer, if you'd put it that way. I really love to dig deep into things. I went on to do so many different science shows, and it all comes down to just being curious and creative. So one of my very favorite topics is to talk about people who think differently, think outside the box. And we've had them all throughout history. I mean, the first person that picked up a rock and used it for a tool in a cave somewhere, that was an innovator. That was creative thinking. And we have a lot of different creative people and inventions everywhere you look around the room. So let's get started with our agenda today. We are going to be talking about curiosity and the world around you, how you can be an innovator, how you can be creative in your own world, thinking globally but acting locally. All right, so are you ready to go on this journey with me? I'm very excited about this because I love Varsity Tutors. I love these classes, and I want to start out with, what are some of the characteristics of a great innovator, a great problem solver? Now, also look around your room. Everything from the furniture you're sitting on to the computer or the phone that you're looking at, somebody had to invent or innovate or engineer in some way. Every single thing there. Okay, I'm starting to see some answers coming in. What makes a great problem solver? I'm seeing smart, analytical, seeing smart again, leader, creative, curious, like me. Yep. I'm seeing a lot of really good answers. And I have to say, I mean, all of these things are really important to being a problem solver. I mean, a lot of you need to be smart and thoughtful and analytical. Absolutely right. But the quality that's too often overlooked to me when it comes to invention and innovation is creativity. Most of the greatest innovations of our time were made by those who harnessed their ability to think outside the box, challenge the status quo, and just be creative. I mean, look around you. The elastic in this shirt, somebody invented because they thought maybe this neckline was a little too tight. Somebody engineered this inspiration with a creative thought. Okay. look around and you saw these different inventions that are all around you. But what I find really fun, these are two of my very favorite examples of just how people maybe by accident created something amazing by just trying, by giving a thought, by failure and looking at their mistakes and being creative. Now, Silly Putty and the microwave, what do they have in common? Any good answers here? Yes, I'm seeing they're both things that you necessarily don't use all the time. Okay. All right. So, Silly Putty was invented completely by accident. This was an invention that was stumbled upon because the inventor chose to harness a mistake and turn it into a chance to innovate. The inventor of Silly Putty was attempting to make a rubber substitute. It was during wartime and there's a rubber shortage, and then they just happened to create this gooey substance that could sit on newspapers. That's what we had before the internet. Um, and pick up the pictures, and you can stretch Silly Putty out and actually see the picture on the rubber. Total accident. And the microwave? Also, the inventor of the microwave discovered the potential of this technology completely by accident. All of a sudden, when the chocolate bar in his pocket started to melt when he was working with magnetrons. I mean, without curiosity and creativity of innovators throughout history, many of the things that we use every day would never have existed. Now, I know you're probably thinking, Silly Putty, I haven't seen that in ages. I got slime, non-Newtonian fluids, I've got fidget spinners. Silly Putty was the slime of my time. Just throwing that out there in case your parents are watching too. They know what it is. Anyway, we need to combine logic, curiosity, and creativity to innovate, create, and learn. Now on Mythbusters, we had a name for this. Well, there was a cameraman who nicknamed me and Grant and Tori Technical, Practical, Logical. Grant, my co-host, was technical. He could do anything robotic. Tori, my other co-host, he was practical. He would find the simplest solution to anything. And I was logical, is what they called me. So I remember this one time we had to figure out how to stop an infrared camera, which is a heat sensing camera, during an episode called Mission Impossible. We love our puns, where we were criminals trying to sneak into a room. We had to fool a camera by erasing our heat signature. Now, how would we do this? Well, one of the myths was that if you slide a piece of glass right in front of the camera, it's just going to reflect the heat signature of that glass and not the person sneaking in to steal everything. Well, the hard part is we're up in the rafters in this room. There's a camera on the ceiling, and we have to somehow put a piece of glass on this camera without being detected. So Grant spent the day, good part of the day, coming up with the most over-engineered robotic arm I'd ever seen. I mean, this thing had all sorts of ways to bend. It was controlled from above. I mean, it was a beautiful piece of engineering. But every time he tried to use it, the glass would fall, or the arm wouldn't quite work, or it was a little too over-engineered. So I came in and was like, there's got to be a better way. So I grabbed a broom handle, and I stuck a piece of glass on a wire, bent down, yoga style, and just slipped the glass over the camera. And Greg got sort of mad and laughed at the same time. He's like, seriously? I spent all day working on this robot arm? And Kari, you're just gonna poke it with a stick? From then on, that became our answer. When things got too complicated, we're like, maybe we just need to poke it with a stick. Innovation doesn't have to be high tech. It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's just bringing things down to simplicity because you got creative. All right. Woo, I just echoed. Now I want to talk about, well, she might be one of my favorites because my name is Kari Byron. This is Ada Byron, later to become Ada of Lovelace when she got married, but she is the daughter of Lord Byron, a very famous poet that he was considered one of the great romantics. As a poet and a romantic in the tradition of some great artists, He was extremely creative, but not necessarily the best husband. So when he and his wife split, his wife wanted to cure Ada of all the art and poetry that she could to make her the least like her father. So she inundated her with math, lots and lots of math. She had her learning math day and night so that she could cure all of this artsiness and not be like her dad. Well, turns out, fun fact, by the way, people who are good at guitar are generally good at math because that artistic part of your brain uses the same part of your brain with math and music. So you really can't cure art with math because they're the same. Side note. Anyway, so now we have a woman with the soul of an artist and the analytics and calculations of a mathematician. Now, Ada, she had met a man named Charles Babbage, and he had created this amazing machine that was called it was basically like a giant calculator. It was called an analytical engine. They were great friends and mused on creations together, but she realized that the potential of this device that he created was far bigger than just crunching numbers. It was bigger than a calculator because she saw that the mechanical looms that used punch cards to direct weaving patterns of beautiful tapestry also were the same kind of punch cards that Babbage's engine used when it made calculations. So why is this important? Associating numbers to create a picture? What does that sound like to you? Yes, an algorithm. The first notion of what would become the basis for computer science was created by taking a woman of math with a soul of art, putting them together. Numbers making pictures is the whole reason why I am talking to you right now from my computer to your computer. And that is why I believe that we should stop calling it STEM and start to call it STEAM. Put the A in STEM so that we have science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, because it really all is just a diving into curiosity and getting creative in every single one of those fields. Math is incredibly creative. Ada's contribution is part of what allows us to connect today in class and why a bunch of ones and zeros make this picture that you're looking at right now. All right, let's talk about another one of my very favorite inventors, innovators, somebody who changed life as we know it in such a simple way. So why do I have a picture here of a dog with a bunch of burrs in its fur? Well, have you ever taken a dog on a walk through the woods and they get those little burrs stuck all inside of their fur and it's impossible to get them out because they have this great natural system of little hook and loops on top of the outside of the burr? Well, that's exactly what George de Mestral did. He took a walk on what was basically just a hunting trip in the woods and stuck all over his socks and in his dog's fur. That's right, tons of burrs. And he wanted to see why this amazing natural creation was so good at sticking. So he put it under a microscope and saw the little hooks on the little like tendrils of the burr. And he came up with a hook and loop system, which is now modern Velcro. People use it I use it in my rip away pants for sports when I'm wearing shorts underneath. I actually don't have those, but that's what I would use it with. People in NASA used it to keep their instruments down when they were going into space. I mean, as you know, there's a million uses for Velcro, and it all happened because of an innovation, some creativity, and somebody just looking around the world going, I wonder if there's a reason for that. Maybe I can create something. And that's what he did. Now it's everywhere. Innovators are everywhere. Here are a couple of my favorites. We got Hedy Lamarr, we've got Margaret Knight, and of course, how many of you guys have seen Hidden Figures? Yeah? All right. So let's start with Hedy Lamarr. I mean, she's a beautiful actress of her time. So Hedy invented, you don't need to leave the slide up. I got this. Hetty invented this awesome version of a frequency hopping spread spectrum communication. Okay, that's a mouthful, but it's basically a technology that was intended for torpedo guidance, but instead she invented something new. As this incredible artist, she changed and innovated tech in her off time. There's more modern version, Mayambolic. Did you know that that woman is a neuroscientist as well as an actress? Because you can be both smart and artsy. Secondly, we were talking about Margaret Knight. Now, she's pretty fun. We don't have a picture of her, of course, because in 1870, when they didn't take pictures of many factory workers, she invented a machine that could mass produce flat-bottomed paper bags. I mean, I know this seems like a small contribution, but because she had this very unique view, being somebody who was somebody who did all the grocery shopping and somebody who actually worked on the assembly line, she revolutionized the mass production of these bags with the flat bottom. It made it so it was convenient for customers. We all carry them today, and she came up with a way to make this something very common just because she took her experience in the factory and her experience as the family shopper, put them together, got a patent for a machine. And of course, Mary Jackson. There are actually several women who I could point out that were NASA's hidden figures, but I picked her specifically because she had to overcome a lot to do what she did. Her contributions are now a part of our culture and society, and these stories are becoming more and more. She had to persevere through a lot of adversity to make her mark in history. But once again, because she had that unique voice where she could take where she came from and her ways, she was able to change the world. Innovation is everywhere. We just need to be curious and harness our creativity. So now, can you think of any invention in our everyday life that is interesting or creative or different or something that changed us? Now, when I'm walking down the street, I'm always looking around and seeing architecture and buildings and street signs, and it's just wondrous to see all of the different ways that somebody has had to innovate the world around us to make us happier, healthier, safer. Do you guys know what this is right here? Okay, so this is something that it was invented in the UK. This is called a cat's eye. Now you can kind of see the two little eyes there. It's called a cat's eye because of its reflective properties. Now you may have also seen reflectors in the road, but this is the OG reflector. This is the one that was created so that the world becomes safer on the road. You've seen them everywhere in Europe mostly. It's really, really interesting. I mean, a lot of you said phones and virtual reality and robots, and those are all so high tech. But this one little innovation, the cat's eye, it may be funky and dated looking, but it's incredibly innovative. It reflects back your own headlights. It self-cleans every time it gets pushed down using rainwater because it rubberizes and goes down and cleans up like windshields. The design is to keep safe, to be if traffic is running over it, because it's got these metal rims all the way around it. I mean, this design is an entire field of road safety innovation right here that in Britain, which is known for its safety on the roads because of inventions like this. Anyway, so the takeaway from this is everywhere you look, there's curiosity everywhere. When you look around, you can see examples of incredible innovation everywhere. Okay, I want to play a little game with you. It's kind of related to the cat's eye. It's called form versus function, or form and function. Now, everything is created to make things a little bit easier or more aerodynamic. The reason that your car is shaped the way that it is because wind blows over it. The reason that the buildings that you're in, well, let's talk this way. What's the most interesting or sorry, sorry, I said that wrong. Yes, thank you. The world is your canvas here. See this geometric design? What do you think it's designed this way for? What does it help save? Millions of what type of animal annually? Raccoons? Yeah, that's a good answer. Squirrels? I see bats. What I see most of you saying, though, birds. And you would be absolutely right. Okay, birds. This geometric design has been adopted by many. It's even outside of aviaries, and it saves millions of birds a year just as a secondary benefit. It also is cooling for inside of the building. This design is something that's very pretty, but it's also part of the building. Now, that is over in Salt Lake City, Utah, but all over the world, there's a different kind of design to buildings to help in its innovation. This one is my favorite. I want to throw this up here, right here. In the Middle Ages, this design was created. And tell me, why do you think that the openings on this sort of netting framework are larger at the top than the bottom? This is the outside of a building, and it looks like just a simple window, but it's not. It's got all sorts of innovation to it that were created long, long before the building that you're living in right now was created. All right, I want to see some answers. Some people are saying for light. I see some people saying privacy. Good one. Let sun in, let air in. Well, guess what? You're all right. This design is called mashrabia, which it serves so many purposes. It consists of larger holes at the top to let air flow in without being overpowering. So think of when you open your car window and just a little bit so it doesn't blow in your face or mess up your hair. It also lets in light by having bigger holes at the top. It also helps maintain privacy, which culturally or actually everywhere, you want some privacy when looking into your windows. Now, mashrabia is an innovation that's very thoughtful design, and it's been around for centuries. I know that we usually think of like modern technology when we think of innovation, but there are examples of creativity and successful design that are just all around us that we don't notice until we start asking questions and start to really notice our environment, start to be an observer. Instead of just walking down the street, interact with the street, look around at the beautiful designs and the purpose throughout history that they've had. It's not just form, it's function. I want to show you another building that is very, very cool. So what do you think that this curved design right here, what do you think that the center of the roof allows to collect of 40% of the village's need for what resource? What do you think we're collecting? Light? Wind flow? Okay. I'm seeing rain. Yep, these are all very, very good answers. Most of you are saying water. And yes, sunlight was a good answer. There is a lot of sunlight there, but the design was built not only to create a place for community to come together, because it is an art center in Senegal, but it also collects 40% of the community's water that it needs. The rainwater collection system saves all the water for the community itself. How cool is that? I mean, the thoughtful design of this building and the others, it's all about creating some sort of function to it. Those curves also are really good for wind flow. All right, let me give you another example. See, I like buildings and I like architecture because it's something that you're gonna see everywhere. This one right here, these are pivoting recycled material. They're sculptural panels that aren't just cool looking, and they can be controlled from the inside, but why do you think that they move? Just to make cool pictures? I buy that. I mean, it is pretty arty. Sunlight? Good, good. All very, very good answers. Yep. Mm-hmm. Protecting from wind. Okay. Yes, all those things are great. Okay, so these sculptural facades, they allow the building to control light. You can change it from the inside. It's really pleasing to look at, but it's also better for the environment. It's part of what makes the building carbon neutral. I don't know if you saw lesson one, but of course you all saw lesson one. But we talked about carbon neutral on the last Varsity Tutors when we were talking about recycling. Do you guys remember what it means? It means the carbon emissions caused have been balanced out by an equivalent amount of carbon savings elsewhere. So when you think that we have this way of controlling the light into the building, you don't have to use as much energy or as much heat. So this building is actually 100% carbon neutral. It's the Pixel building in Australia, all the way on the other side of the world if you're in America, or maybe it's home if you're watching this from Australia. Okay, so when we're talking about architectures, the world is your canvas. We're talking about all of the beautiful things around. I'm sure you've looked at skyscrapers and thought about the incredible design, the spirals, the ledges, and the intricate designs. What do you think that they help protect against with these buildings? What is the most important thing when building these buildings? What element do you think that we have to think about the most? I've seen sun, yes. Wind. Most of you are saying wind. Yeah, I guess it could be pretty obvious that the wind is going to be very important because, I mean, we have to think about rain and fire and that sort of thing, but wind is constant and a primary concern. So these big, tall buildings, now they have to fight the wind because basically these buildings are a wind block. And when the wind hits it, it creates vortices that spin because the wind has to go somewhere. So imagine wind hits the building, peels off and spirals. I have a little example in case you don't know what a vortice looks like. It's kind of violent. It's a spiraling that creates these high and low pressure systems, and it's right on the outside of a building. So there are people whose entire job is to think about ways to direct the wind and disrupt this pattern so that the buildings don't shake or sway or start to lean when the wind is too crazy. They can control that wind flow. They can do it with things like uneven or curved corners. They can alter it so that the wind pushes in the way that they want it to do so that they can create some sort of sustainability and just a real stability. Also, as you can see from all of the pictures, might throw them back up, innovation is not a one size all kind of situation here. Check this out. See, all of them are completely shaped differently, and they're all to fight the wind and also the sun. The sun is something that you can harness when you have a skyscraper. Now, my current job is I am a host of a show called Crash Test World, and I got to visit this example on the far right there. That is in Doha, Qatar. Now, that building is incredibly interesting because they use mashrabia, like we talked about earlier, which is, you know what? Let me just play the clip so you guys can see for yourselves. This is from Crash Test World.
The futuristic skyline of Doha, Qatar, was mostly built over the last couple decades. Building a state-of-the-art skyscraper here means contending with the brutal desert sun. So how can modern architecture and design help provide relief from the heat? This is Burj Doha. Every detail of this 46-story office tower was designed to help keep it cool year-round. The entrance sits below street level and is surrounded by green walls which help cool the surrounding space. Woof, I can feel that in my stomach. This goes fast! While reflective glass adds solar protection, it's the aluminum shell that does the heavy lifting. This side is the east side where the sun rises, so the lattice work is really tight-knit to shield you from the heat and intensity. But over here, on the north side, the lattice work opens up where there's no direct sunlight, so it can let in all of the light. This unique design is inspired by traditional Arabic mashrabiyah. Now, those are the ornately carved balconies that you'll find all over the Middle East and Asia. The facade is both practical and an expression of ancient Arabic design in the modern era.
There we go. Okay, so mashrabiyah, that is the same thing that we talked about earlier. They used it on an entire building to control the light, to control the wind, and it's this innovation that if you live in Qatar, you get to see every single day. What's amazing is these innovations, they are all over the world. Everything that we've talked about today, from Salt Lake City to Qatar to the Shanghai Tower in China, all over the world, people are using design, architecture to combine form and function, make something beautiful out of something that we're using every single day. It took a lot of creativity to be able to build those buildings. Now, creativity near and far all around us. I want you, this is my little personal assignment for you. I want you to become an observer. I want you to walk out into your world and find an example of really beautiful design that has a beautiful purpose where you live. Take a closer look at the world around you. And if you'd like, snap a photo, tag Varsity Tutors, tag the real Kari Byron on an Instagram post, and I will definitely see it. I will share that moment of appreciation for creativity with you, as I look at all the posts, and especially the Varsity Tutor posts, because I really want to keep up with what you guys are taking away from this talk. Also, if you happen to go check out Explore, which is where Crash Test World is, we actually involve ourselves with a lot of kids in Seen by Me, which is a series about kids taking pictures of the world that they live in. All right, I have a question for you. What is your hobby or talent? What are you passionate about? What do you do on the side when you're not going to school or work? What do you do that is something that is your creativity, your innovation? I'm seeing drawing, I'm seeing painting right there. That was embroidery. I know that sometimes I like to do crocheting. Yeah. My daughter likes to draw anime. All of those are incredible talents. Now, oh, I saw skateboarding. You want to know something funny? All right. So with these hobbies and talents you have, you know that one talent or creativity, or it expands your entire mind, and you can use that in your future, in your career. Funny thing, what skill do you think Silicon Valley was looking for when they were trying to find new creative thinkers and new talent? Yeah, skateboarders. So this I found very interesting. I live in Silicon Valley, and headhunters were not just looking for people who had computer skills on their resume. They were looking for people that had that sort of different kind of thinking. I mean, that's what got, I think you can see over my shoulder, I've got Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs up there. Their different kind of break out of the barriers thinking created the little Apple laptop that I'm looking at right now. Silicon Valley thought leaders were like, okay, you don't just need computer skills, you need creativity. The world of tech has always had this talent for finding creative thinkers. Headhunters for decades were looking towards skateboarders and extreme athletes for tech talent. You might be thinking, why? I mean, have you ever watched a skateboarder try to land a new trick? I mean, they try over and over and over. They crash, they fall, but they keep trying. They persevere. They find it. They fall. They make mistakes. Failures are a lesson, but in the end, they land the trick. That is an incredible trait of a progressive thinker, and that's why tech is looking for progressive thinkers. They look towards things like people who can skateboard, people who can paint, people who aren't just necessarily what you would think as left or right brained. They're looking for people that can harness it all. I personally found that looking at places like science fairs, I have found people using the things around them, commonplace resources, just things you might find in your house, to make incredible innovations. From the Girl Scouts to 4-H, creating drones in kitchens. I have seen the most incredible inventions from kids who were maybe in middle school. I met a sixth grader named Peyton Robertson that he invented a sandless sandbag using the polymer stuff like InstaSnow or the stuff that's just like inside of baby diapers, which is incredibly absorptive. He wanted to help out in his community where there was flooding in Florida, and people were using sandbags, but sandbags are heavy and you have to lug them around, and he's 11. So he came up with filling these sandbags with this polymer so that when they get wet, they expand. And then when they dry out, you can just stack them like paper. He ended up landing himself a patent, and 3M's making them now. I met an 8th grader who designed a floating robot that drowned immature mosquitoes before they could spread illness. And there was an 11-year-old there who okay, so many kids. I could go on about this forever. I hosted the science fair. I get very, very excited. I will give you one example of an old-timey invention that I could use right now because we're going through a heat wave. I don't know if you can see I'm sweating, but there was an 11-year-old who invented the popsicle completely by accident. This kid took soda powder, some water, accidentally left a mixing stick in it, left it out overnight, it froze because it was an 11-year-old boy, stuck it in his mouth. He's like, oh, this is awesome. This is kind of delicious. Created the popsicle completely by accident and then became an entrepreneur because he wanted to harness his innovation. Takeaway here, get creative with the resources that you have in front of you. I mean, look around your house. There's so many things that you can make some mind-blowing inventions. You don't need a fancy high-tech lab. The point here is that if you've got a unique perspective and you have resources around you that are handy and easy to use, go ahead, get to inventing, get to innovating. So let's do a little exercise in creativity here. This one's kind of fun. This is one of those ones that you get to trick adults with, or at least one of my favorite things to do. We're going to use the scientific method here. We're going to form a hypothesis, design an experiment, test our results, and draw some conclusions, and also do something kind of tricky. So in the beginning, we asked you all to get yourself a piece of paper, right? And a pair of scissors. Now, the question here is, with this activity, can I create a hole in this piece of paper so that I can fit my entire body through it? Like walk through this tiny piece of paper. Now, I want you to go to that answer box and tell me, how do you think that we're going to be able to do this? How do you think I'm going to be able to take this paper and only using scissors, make a circle I can walk through? Okay, I'm seeing some interesting answers. Just put a hole through the middle. Okay, well, this is how you myth bust. You try it. I'm going to put the biggest hole in the paper I can. Now, maybe it's because I'm an adult, but I'm going to have to try to make that a really big hole. Let's see. Okay, I can get my head through it. That's it. All right, I'm seeing zigzag pattern. Okay. What do we got here? Like that. Zigzag. Okay. It's not working for me either. Do you guys want to see how to do it? I know I was trying out different things because that's what we do. Well, want to see how I like to play with this? Got your piece of paper. Folded hot dog style. Then I want you to create some very small cuts. Don't go all the way to the end. You're cutting from the folded side up to the side with the edges. See? Okay. I'm going to make a bunch of these cuts. Play along at home, please, with your scissors. There we go. Okay. Now I want you to turn that piece of paper over and go to the other side. All right. Now in between each of these, I want you to cut from the cut side towards the foldy side, but don't cut all the way, just to the end, almost like paper dolls, right? So go ahead and cut with me. Oh, this reminds me of the time that we did this myth called 7 paper fold, where you wanted to see that there's a myth that you can only fold a piece of paper 7 times. I'm going to do this down here so I can hold it. And we wanted to set the world record for that. So we got a warehouse and got the most giant piece of paper you can imagine and folded it 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 to see if we could do it more than 7 times. And we even had the Guinness Book of World Records out there. Did you guys watch that episode? Okay, so here I am. There we go. I have a piece of paper that's got a zigzag cut all the way through. Okay, so turn your piece of paper. I should have had a desk here. So that you've got the foldy side there on the bottom. Cut the edge here of the foldy side, not cutting the very last 2 ends. Leave the last 2 ends connected and just cut the loops. Okay, let me show you. If I can hold this at the same time. Yeah, so leave the end, the last end, and just cut through all of these loops at the top. Boop. I think there was a reason that the camera was aimed down when they were doing this trick. But we will include some documentation so you can watch this. Boop. Okay, cutting all my loops. Here we go, it's happening. Remember, don't cut the last loop. All right. Are we here? Yes. All right. You ready for the reveal? My piece of paper has become one giant circle that I can walk through. Ta-da! All right. Now that you've learned how to do that, I challenge you to go to your parents and see if they can figure it out without you showing them how to do it. It also makes an incredible piece of jewelry if you want a nice feather boa. All right. Haley, do you have yours made too?
Oh, of course I do. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Going.
Okay,
Right.
everybody. I want you to. We're gonna have a little time now where we can like Q&A, take selfies. Haley's gonna guide you along the way.
I sure
I'm
am.
here for it.
So we had some really awesome questions that we'll get to in just a moment. But before we do, we promised everybody a selfie. So as you guys get your cameras at the ready, as a quick reminder, if you post those selfies on Instagram and you tag us here at Varsity Tutors, as well as the real Kari Byron, you will be entered to win those very fantastic recycled skateboard earrings, how fitting, or another sustainable accessory of your choice, as well as a 1-month membership to the after school camp of your choice. So be sure to go ahead and tag us. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Kari for that selfie.
All right, guys, you ready to pose? I am. All right, 3, 2, 1, smile.
All right, awesome. If you guys didn't get your selfies just yet, not to worry. We're going to take the next couple of moments to ask a couple of those questions, and I'm sure Kari will be very excited to answer your questions, and you can snap a selfie at some point then as well. But we had lots of really wonderful questions around your work, whether it's in Crash Test World or in Mythbusters, and any fun stories that you have there. So do you have any either funniest experiences or maybe scariest experiences that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, I got a lot of those. You know, I was talking earlier about one of the most important qualities to a creative, thoughtful person that's trying to innovate and invent is something that's printed on all of our t-shirts. It's failure is always an option. Don't think that when you try something the first time that you have to get it right, because nobody hears about the 99 times you got it wrong. They're going to only hear about the one time you got it right. Do you know how many times a light bulb someone tried to create until actually a light bulb was invented? But we don't talk about the failures. And I think it's really important for us to talk about the failures. So on Mythbusters, I was thinking this one time we had to test red flag to a bull to see if a bull was attracted to a red flag. Of course, this meant lots of hilarious footage of Tori being a rodeo clown and jumping away from bulls. But just as a side gag, because we had bulls, I thought, let's do bull in a china shop. Now, this is an old adage. I don't know if you've heard it, but he's like a bull in a china shop. Basically means a very clumsy person that's destructive and breaks everything, right? So thought this was going to be a throwaway gag. It was going to be a quickie. I got a high-speed camera. I got some foam core and made all of these shelves. I put them in a bullpen, and I had about 6 bulls. So I let a bull into the pen, and this bull just like danced around every single shelf. It didn't knock over one dish. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm failing at this. Maybe I just had a very agile bull. So let in 2 bulls. They followed each other in a line like a freaking ballet. Let in 3 bulls, 4, 5, 6 bulls in a tiny pen filled with dishes. High-speed camera at the ready. They didn't knock anything over. Tori broke more dishes when we were buying them at the thrift store than the bulls did in this freaking pen. And I'm just like, oh, come on. This tiny little thing that I at first started to feel like a failure because I couldn't get all of this great footage. All of a sudden, it dawned on us. We all started laughing hysterically. We're like, this is busted. Bulls are very graceful. We're changing this to Tori in a china shop. Bulls get a bad rap. Anyway, make your failure your innovation.
That's amazing. So as an unexpected secondary takeaway from today's lesson, apparently bulls are much more agile and gentle than we might expect. That's fantastic. We had we talked a little bit about some past stories, both in Mythbusters and in your work with Crash Test World. But we had some students who were wondering what you're up to right now. So could you tell us a little bit about projects that you're working on?
Yes, actually, we're live right now. So this is happening today. But during my first Varsity Tutor lesson, for some reason, it coincided with the launch of Explore-Home.com, which is like Netflix for educational videos. So they're family friendly and they're aimed mostly towards like 5th to 10th grade, but there's videos for all ages on there. That includes Crash Test World, incredible videos like Girl Rising, talking about the impact of education on girls. There's everything from social emotional learning to math, to history, to awkward conversations that you might not want to have with your parents, but you want to learn about. It is called Explore, EXPLR.com. And you can find the Explore-Home or launching today, Explore-Classroom.com, which very cool. It has lesson plans along with the videos. So you can watch Crash Test World on beekeeping in Detroit and have an entire discussion plan for your teachers. So this is a way for us to like give back to the teachers a little bit here. It is it's going to cut down on the prep time. Lessons are included with the videos and it's any subject you can imagine. So you can check me out there.
Awesome. That is so, so cool. And I know you gave us lots of really fantastic examples of innovations near, far, young, maybe not so young. But were there any that you missed that you'd like to speak to? Do you have any other favorite stories that you think students need to hear?
Favorite stories you need to hear. Man, we innovated a lot of weird things on Mythbusters, things that don't need to be used in the real world, but in an application like Mythbusters, very, very important. For one, we created a slapping machine out of a baseball bat swinging machine, because first we were testing baseball myths and we had this bat swinging machine. And then we had to do this one myth where if you're intoxicated or tired, you can slap some sense into somebody, right? But it had to be controlled. And since It's harder than you think to slap your friends in the face. First of all, it's not always going to be the same pressure. I always bulk and they always move. And we had to create a controlled way of continually slapping ourselves in the face. It sounds like glamorous Hollywood talk, doesn't it? Nah. So we made a rubberized hand out of my hand. We attached it to the end of the baseball swinging machine so that every time it would slap at the same pressure continuously, and we could do things like, oh, I don't know, be in a really cold environment or a hot environment or stay up all freaking night so that we were tired, and then see if we could take a test before and after to see if we had a better cognition. So being slapped as hard as we could by this machine, we tested it a few times at first. The innovation was changing the baseball swinging machine into a slapping machine, but the creativity had to come in creating a machine that wouldn't kill us. Because the first few times that we rolled with this machine, it went whack, 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 and pieces fell off, and our crash testing dummy got a little worse for wear. We had to find the right durometer, which is it's the hardness of softness for the hand, so it would be like an actual hand durometer. Like this would be the durometer of the hand. How soft is this hardness? Yeah, lots of creativity. We sat around with our diverse backgrounds and talked about how we could slap the sense into ourselves.
Well, that is certainly quite the story. Thank you so much. And it is unfortunately about that time, but do you have any other closing thoughts that you'd like to leave with the class, whether it's about innovation, how they can bring it to their own lives and to their own stories, or anything else?
I mean, I found really fun ways to play with creativity, our Rube Goldberg machines. I loved looking around my house for things that I could turn into contraptions that one action would lead to the next. A mouse trap that snaps down, that sets off some dominoes, that makes a little toy car go down a ramp, that utilizes Legos and marbles and anything that I could find. And that always kind of got my creative juices flowing so that I could come up and create new and innovative things myself. So anyway, use what you got around your house. Have fun. Be creative. Inventing is fun, and you don't have to do it right. So you can just keep going with it. I bet you didn't know that you can turn a Nerf gun into a Cheeto ball blaster, did you? Yeah, just sitting around my house. I had Cheeto balls, I had a Nerf gun, and now I have a really fun way of eating.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kari, once again. And thank you for all of you who tuned in live and asked such wonderful, thoughtful questions and participated in our scientific method together. We hope to see you all back in another Varsity Tutors StarCourse sometime soon. But in the meantime, don't forget to post on Instagram and tag us. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye. Tag me too.